All right, this is my project about dehydration versus overhydration. Oops. So my wonder phrase is I wonder what the difference is between overhydration and dehydration. And I chose this because I play football, and throughout my high school years, I struggled consistently with cramping during games. And it wasn't until my senior year that I discovered it may actually be because I'm overhydrating rather than not drinking enough water. And after I started cutting back on what I was drinking, I saw an immediate change in the frequency of my cramps, almost eliminating them completely. And for a question, bro, how can I move this thing, bro? Mr. Mingus, ignore this part, bro. For my first question, it was how does dehydration affect the body's performance? And I discovered that because water cushions the joints, dehydration can reduce flexibility and speed, along with lowering endurance and increasing chances of cramping. But it also makes it harder to absorb oxygen in your lungs, and dehydration can also affect mood and concentration, which causes headaches. And then question two, how does overhydration affect the body's performance? And I discovered drinking too much water causes hyponatremia, which is a low sodium condition. And this throws electrolytes in the body out of balance, and it can cause cloudy thinking, nausea, and vomiting, also muscle weakness, spasms, and then cramps and headaches. And then what is the ideal amount of water for an athlete to drink? And I found this varies a lot based on body size, activity level, and intensity of the workout. General suggestions say that half to 1 ounce per pound of body weight per day is suggested, but also it's 200 to 300 milliliters of fluid every 10 to 20 minutes during activity. And they also say make sure that during activity your body weight loss stays below 2%, and then any weight you lose during your workout should be replaced after the workout. And then how can you tell if you're overhydrated or dehydrated? So the easiest way is to check your urine color. If your urine is dark yellow or orange, then you're most likely dehydrated. And then if your urine is clear or colorless, then you're most likely drinking too much water. And then do sports and energy drinks overhydrate or dehydrate you? And I found that it depends on the drink. So for example, sports drinks like Gatorade or Body Armor. So these are designed to help with hydration, and they typically help athletes feel with added electrolytes. But drinking too much can give you too much electrolytes, which is overhydrating. But then in contrast, there's energy drinks, and these are designed to give you like a caffeine boost, to give you a boost of energy. And these usually contribute a lot to dehydration. And then for my interview, I interviewed my dad, Brad White, and I interviewed him because he played high school and college soccer, and he played. And these were the interview questions I asked my dad. And the first one was, what did you do to avoid being dehydrated as an athlete, as a college athlete specifically? And he said drinking a lot of water before and after workouts. But he said his big thing was during games, he would drink a Gatorade before the game started. And then at the halftime of his soccer game, he would drink a Gatorade during then too. Um, and then I asked him, how did you perform when your body was dehydrated? And he said he didn't really notice because he thinks adrenaline kind of played a big factor. And obviously during the game, you're not thinking about being dehydrated. But he said some tells were like headaches, cramps, and dry throat. And then I also asked him when he was an athlete if he was aware that it was possible to be overhydrated. And he said no. So I said, if not, why do you think you're unaware of this? And he said a big part of it was because he played in the 1980s and it was hard to find credible sources about nutrition because the internet wasn't prevalent yet. And then he said, like, because there was no internet, his only source was like his high school trainer and his health teacher and people that you would associate with being healthy. So he didn't really have much sources to go off of. And then I asked, how did you know if you were dehydrated while doing physical activity? And he also talked about the urine checks. That's been known for a while. But then he also said there were some indicators like dry throat, headache, and specifically craving water during activity. And the last question I asked was, in retrospect, what would you have done differently to hydrate your body as an athlete? And his big thing was just drink less Gatorade. He said at some points he was drinking more water than Gatorade. And although sports drinks are useful to some level, drinking 2 Gatorades per soccer game while only drinking a little bit of water probably wasn't super good for his body. Let's go. Some remaining questions I have were, is it worse to be overhydrated or dehydrated? Because I find out the symptoms are pretty similar. And then also, what can you do to reset your body after being overhydrated? Because I know like with being dehydrated, you can always just drink more water, but how do you reset after having after throwing your sodium levels off balance at like being overhydrated? And then lastly, what can you do quickly to hydrate yourself if you're dehydrated? Like a quick fix instead of just drinking water. And for my summary, I just talked about the differences between over and dehydration, obviously. So for overhydration, this occurs when you drink too much water and it causes hyponatremia, which is low sodium levels and the imbalance of electrolytes. And then this can lead to nausea, headaches, and cramps and is indicated by clear or colorless urine versus dehydration, which occurs when you drink too little water. And this causes things like reduced flexibility, endurance, and lack of oxygen absorption in your lungs. And this can also lead to nausea, headaches, and cramps, similar to dehydration, but is instead indicated by a dark yellow or orange colored urine.